Hello and welcome to the Outside the Cockpit post-race show of the Imola Grand Prix. My name is Sam Donzig. I'm joined by Julian Quintero and Ming Truong. How are you guys doing today?
Oh, it's been a great day. We had an amazing race last week, back-to-back great GPs, and now we head into, I believe we have Portimao next. Hopefully Portimao can live up to what Imola gave us and to what Bahrain gave us. This season's starting to shape up very nicely.
It was good. Look at me. Look at, I'm already wearing it. I'm wearing it. There you go. Very happy.
Yeah,
very excited.
repping the Red Bull.
He's wearing the uniform.
And so a bit of shades right here. There you go. Aston Martin. So yeah, what a chaotic race. But it's such a different vibe from like the Tuscan Grand Prix last year when it's also chaotic, but this one is just like chaotic but fun. So
yes,
yeah.
indeed. Let's start with the race start, and what a chaotic race start it was. Obviously, Hamilton getting overtaken by Verstappen in the first lap, getting some contact, as well as Nicholas Latifi. I believe he went off on the first lap, bringing out the safety car, went right into the wall, ended his race early. Let's start with Min. What are your thoughts on that race start?
That restart was pretty awesome. When you know, it's all excited when it started raining. It's still raining, and you're just like, yeah. And I just keep commenting. Imola, as I played. Try to drive it online virtually is also one of the most puddle-filled mess you can drive on, especially the corkscrew. So it just, yeah, I think everyone's heart like my heart just felt like almost die when I saw like Carlos Sainz just keep spinning out like several times. but yeah, that restart, which is amazing. It was really awesome when you see the overtake, and then you see Hamilton get a bit of wing damage, but then get out a bit chaotic with people spinning, crashing, and yellow, yeah, safety car.
Yeah, what about you, Julian?
No, that was an incredible start to a Grand Prix. The guy that I thought would be able to make the jump and attack Hamilton was Paris. Paris got a good start, but so did Hamilton. But Max Verstappen looked like the Flash off the line. I legitimately for a couple seconds thought this guy definitely jumped the start because we weren't even close to the first hard braking zone, and he was already alongside Hamilton. He started behind Hamilton, physically behind him. And I was like, there's no way. The move was absolutely amazing. According to telemetry data and whatnot, Verstappen started in second gear instead of first gear. He upshifted incredibly, and he got the jump on the start. And if that does turn out to be true, we might start seeing a lot more drivers potentially try to do that on the starts. We'll have to see how that ends up turning out. But the opening laps of the GP, or should I say just opening lap, because we ended up getting a safety car at the end of the first lap, it was crazy. We saw a lot of movement during the field. Tsunoda at the end of the first lap went from 20th to 15th. Vettel also hopped a couple cars at the start of the race after starting from the pit lane. And again, Nikita Mazepin, he was involved in the Latifi crash that brought out the safety car. But if you look at the replay, any racing fan can tell you, even though as much as we don't like Nikita Mazepin, so to say, it was not his fault at all. Latifi just didn't see him in the rain. He came across, and Mazepin really had nowhere to go, and he ended up clipping Latifi. Ended Latifi's race, which sucked because the Williams – it sucks for the Williams. We're going to talk more about George Russell in a bit, but
yeah,
the Williams this weekend both made it to Q2. I think that's the first time since, I believe, like 2014 that the team has done something of the sort like that, and they absolutely had an amazing weekend. Russell was fighting for the points. Latifi, I think, could have been fighting for the points as well with the way that he was playing, the way he was racing, but sadly, Latifi couldn't fully unlock that. He got taken out by Mazepin, although it was entirely his fault, and then there was the whole George Russell situation later on in the GP.
Yeah, which we will talk to as well. I would agree with both of you. It was an excellent race start. I'm a Max Verstappen fan, so I really enjoyed the first start to see him. I missed, honestly, to be honest, I missed the race start because I was sleeping. Actually, I was still. I literally woke up. And it was like 10 after, and I was like, oh, I gotta get up and stuff. So I went downstairs and quick turned it on. And I noticed the safety car and stuff, but I did watch the replay of it. Looked great and stuff. Who was your most impressive driver for the race? What do you guys think? For who impressed you the most during that race?
There's two drivers, and funnily enough for me, it's the two drivers that finished 1 and 2. Verstappen that race, if you want to Google the definition of masterclass, that's quite literally what Max Verstappen had at the front of the grid today. Started third, jumped Hamilton, and ever since that the hard braking into the first corner, Verstappen didn't look back. No, I thought no one was catching Max Verstappen in this Grand Prix. He was absolutely flying. And we had 2 safety cars, a red flag, several yellow flags during the race, and still he was able to always get a 20-second gap out in front. He was just absolutely dominant. You can tell that it wasn't even so much the machinery, but it was just Max Verstappen telling himself, I need to win this race. And it just went to show. And the second driver that I had, it was going to be Lando Norris because he had an amazing weekend, but Lewis Hamilton. Come on. We'll talk more about his drive in a bit, but the fact that he finished second in this race, even he started in pole, you see it's like, oh, he started first, he finished second, definitely must have like choked something somewhere. No, the drive that he had in the second half of that Grand Prix was absolutely beautiful, and it deserves as much acclaim as a 7-time world champion. I need to get used to saying 7-time world champion for Hamilton.
Yes, indeed.
For me, the 7-time world champion's always been Schumacher, so saying it for Hamilton is a bit weird, but he's a 7-time world champion. He's making these drives. Like, I know everyone says he's the best machinery, and it's because of that. Obviously, if you have the best car and you're the best driver, you're going to win. But the fact that he got knocked back so far, and then he was able to claw back and still get a second-place finish, it was absolutely amazing weekend for him.
Yeah, for me, honestly, my 2 drivers got to be Max Verstappen, obviously number 1, masterclass drive, perfect driving. He was able to, throughout all the different red flags, yellow flags, like you said, maintain his lead, just have a nice clean race out in front, keep his distance from Hamilton as well. And I think that one of the things that it was interesting is the overcut that they did and how well it worked out, actually, was the fact that they were able to pull that off so smoothly. So well done to Red Bull and the pit crew. Unfortunately, Lewis had a bit of a slower pit stop. He got held up by, it was like 4 seconds. And that's what the difference, 4 seconds can, it might not seem like a big difference but in Formula 1, 4 seconds is a massive difference.
Sam,
well.
it was an undercut because they ended up pitting before Hamilton. They undercut.
No, because it's the overcut because it's the car in front. So if you're the driver in front of the car behind, it's an overcut. So an undercut is considered when the driver, if you're in second place and that's it's kind of, I don't know. It's the way that I was watching on TV and Martin Brundle was like, oh, they're performing the overcut. So that's kind of like I knew that from there. So
the reason why I was confused about that's because usually in most situations the undercut's just whoever pits first, and the overcut ends up being whoever ends up staying out longer.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So that's why I was
okay, see.
I was confused on that, but yeah, that makes sense.
And my second driver would be Lando Norris. Despite finishing third, he had a great race. He held up Lewis Hamilton multiple times around that first corner in at the circuit and stuff, where it's like into that braking zone. He was able to do some really good, really solid defending into that corner and hold him up a bit. So that would be my second driver. What about you, Ming? Who are your 2 most impressive drivers?
I have 2 as well. It's also on the podium, but it's not Max Verstappen. I'm going to be a humble. I'm not going to, flex up boy Max Verstappen. I have 1 runner-up too, but definitely Lewis Hamilton was on a mission today. And when he screwed up that one spot, and he was on a mission. So it was just really awesome to see him go lap to lap and really show that he's he still has it. The champion, the world champion, the 7-time world champion still has it. Still waiting for a fight, and he's still leading the championship with the fastest lap, by 1 point, which is very exciting to see how it's going to run out the whole season. And I'm just happy for Lando Norris too. And I think he was really impressive because how it's so funny because you see how Lewis Hamilton just easily to overtake the 2 Ferraris. Charles was a bit of a battle there, but Lando Norris was just 2 laps, and then the final one, which is now we can do it just because of but Lando Norris was very consistent, and also props to the McLaren team too for and Daniel Ricciardo too for good communication and let Lando through, and he had a better pace, and when he got dirty air, really really good teamwork from McLaren to get him to the podium. My final runner-up, I would be for Mr. Mazepin himself. This is his second race. I was like, wow, he's doing good now. And then lap 58 happened. He spun and then got a small little yellow flag over there. And I'm just like, keep on the streak, bro. I want to see more streaks of you spinning every race.
I think also. Yeah,
what is it? That counts the amount of times he spins every weekend. It's crazy.
I think also, David Crofty, he said on the broadcast, he said, oh, Mazepin and another spin. So another spin. So he literally called him out like that. Let's move on over to the George and Valtteri crash, causing a lot of controversy. Toto Wolff shared his thoughts on it as well, which we'll get to, or he shared his thoughts on the matter and stuff and shared it a bit. What are your thoughts on this? And who was at fault? Really, what are your overall thoughts? Let's start with you, Ming.
I just happy that both of them are safe. Got a bit of chuckle with the whole flipping and slapping afterwards, but I don't necessarily think it's. I think it's just miscommunication between the two. I know that George Russell really complained about the gentleman code when you're in DRS zone, you should not make any moves. But I also feel like Bottas a bit of a slip right there, and also just that one small slip really like confused everyone. And when your adrenaline is rush, you're feeling really intense. That's just one bad thing that happened, which is really like it's gonna end up in disaster. But it's just really scary because it's Tom Moreno, which is like that infamous turn that you know about Ayrton Senna, and you saw the crash there, and you're just like, oh my god, I hope everyone's okay, and I'm glad everyone's okay. Hopefully the safety is good. But yeah, I think we can also like I've seen so many comments about like, oh, this is George Russell fault, blah blah blah. You guys are like biased, and then one's like, oh no, it's actually not Bottas. So it's just like I think it's just like it's a miscommunication in driving, and I think that it's really not one fault. It's just like it's just tight tracks, everything, slippery roads, and yeah.
Yeah, what are your thoughts, Julian?
Well, yeah, going back to Min's point, I'm very happy that they're safe. I was a bit worried for Bottas because he didn't get out of his car immediately like Russell did. So I was like, oh crap, what happened? And it's really scary to see a driver not get out of a car, especially frightening in a track like Imola, which we've seen some major fatalities in the track, and that was scary at first. They got out, it was fine, and then we got to see the crash. And if you see the replay, they're both at fault, and when both drivers are at fault, no one's at fault. It's a racing incident. It's a miscommunication, as being said, but it is both drivers' fault because Bottas, he opened up way more than he should have, especially coming through that short kink. Like, he opened up way more than he should have, more to block the line. He obviously says it's just like Russell shouldn't have been out there because it's wet. It's more horrifying. It's a braver move. Like, you shouldn't be out there when you make a move there. But also, like, he opened up intentionally, it seems, to block that part. He was making his car nice and wide heading into that chicane. But also, Russell, he got scared in a sense. When he was making the move, he saw that Russell bounced up, so he said, oh, I'm going to go further outside. And what really caused the spin was the fact that Russell just opened up a bit too much, rear wheel hit the grass, and from there, you're really just a passenger. There's not much you can do in that situation. So, yeah, they're obviously mad with each other. I don't blame them with being mad with each other because they should be. It's frustrating. Russell, every time he gets into a points position, everything just seems to go poorly for him. And at the same time, we do need to talk about how, one, amazing Russell was, but secondly, how poor Bottas was in this race. Because if we're going to talk about Hamilton's drive right now, the complete and utter difference between the two when it came to the race pace and the way that they were going through the field and everything, it's absolutely insane to see the fact that Lewis Hamilton clawed from 9th to 2nd, but at the same time, Bottas, when in 9th, was actually getting attacked by George Russell in a Williams that's considered to be one of the worst cars on the grid, which, to be honest, after seeing these past 2 weeks, I don't think we can say that anymore about the Williams. I think they're a bottom, or they're starting to slide into the midfield, at least for this set of rule changes, and that's solid to see for them as a team.
Definitely. I would agree with both your points as well. I don't think it was more of a racing incident as well between the two. George Russell just kind of again, got a little bit nervous, put it in the grass, and then spun in to hit Bottas. And again, glad that they're both okay. Toto Wolff, I think he shared his thoughts of the fact that Valtteri should never have been there. Like you said as well, he's disappointed this season for Mercedes as of right now. And I think definitely when we talk about drivers that need to start pulling their weight, and it's Valtteri Bottas, right? Like wait, I know it's
gonna be crazy. I'm looking forward to see what happens, because if Bottas stays like this and Russell's still putting in the performances, could we see a Red Bull-esque move that ends up with Bottas getting dropped mid-season? I mean, he finished 4th. For most teams, 4th is okay, but it wasn't a regular 4th. It was an embarrassing 4th, right, in Bahrain. And then he ends up crashing out in an accident, as we said. It was a racing incident. But he was running 9th. He was literally on the verge of getting dropped to 10th, and then maybe even getting dropped out of the points because Raikkonen had some solid pace as well.
Getting overtaken by a Williams at that moment. So
when you're driving a Mercedes and you get overtaken by a Williams, it doesn't seem right. But to your point as well, I don't think Williams is the worst car on the grid. I'd say they're probably 8th. They're just above Alfa Romeo and Haas, because Haas hasn't developed their car, and Alfa Romeo has really struggled, or Alfa Romeo has really struggled with pace this year so far. So I would say those are the two cars that are kind of below Williams and stuff.
Yeah, let's feel like Alfa Romeo in that sense. I mean, just to finish up on this part with the Alfa Romeo point. Alfa Romeo, the only reason why we're not seeing that their car is so poor is because both of their drivers have been really good last season and they're good this season. Raikkonen is an F1 champion, and Giovinazzi last season, he seemed to finally step into his own. Granted, he's in an Alfa Romeo. It's very hard to get results in that car. But you can see he was finishing just outside the top 10, just outside the points. He was fighting really hard. And you saw today, I say today, yesterday, Raikkonen finished in the points. And Giovinazzi was going to finish in the points until they found debris in one of his brake ducts and they had to clean it. That forced him out of the points and everything. Very, very heartbreaking for Antonio, but it was very, very strong.
I think actually Raikkonen actually finished outside the points because of a post-race penalty that was given to him. Unfortunately, for I guess entering I think it was not entering the pits when under the red flags were coming out. I think he forgot to
No. It was a rolling start. So
okay.
So he even a standing start that he can. It's weird. Like he spun out, but then he stay in P8 or something. But and then because they're rolling start, he had to start from the pit lane.
It was really a very it was definitely really weird.
Based on what everyone said, either way, he was going to get penalized regardless of what he did because Perez spun out earlier in the race and got passed by 2 cars and overtook them and got penalized for overtaking them. Right? Raikkonen spun out, got overtaken by 2 cars and didn't overtake them and got penalized for it.
I don't
know what they want him to do.
I think one is I think it's just weird, but it's very complicated, weird and complicated. I think one is just a safety car restart, so just for safety, you don't allow to do it. The other one just a rolling restart. So they kind of because there's no I think dangerous because the fact that all the car going slowly and then Perez have to speed up to pass 2 cars and so a bit dangerous. I guess that's the reason why that they enforce it, but it's still a bit confusing. I guess if they publish the actual rule books and we can all just being real geniuses, then that would be awesome. But yeah.
Alrighty, let's move on to the insane recovery drive from Lewis Hamilton from P9 up until 2nd place. What are your thoughts on that? Just kind of quickly, what do we got? Let's start with you, Ming.
It was incredible. I mean, it's if you you have that back in your mind, you have this feeling of Hamilton, please don't win, and then you just see him going he's Superman in Superman 2, and he's just flying and then just flying through everyone. I know he did the same thing that he did with Monza when he basically went from P16 to P7 in the points. That which is really incredible. You know how incredible that is when at one point of the race they were going towards the battle between Perez and the Alpine and try to see who's going to get P10, but then they start going to Hamilton just going on a mission. So that it's just awesome. He and keeping getting fastest lap and everything, and his pace is really, really solid. And I think that he is definitely a threat. It's my friend was so angry. They were like, why is this car is so fast? Why he can't overtake him? And I'm like, I mean, look at Bottas. Not really. That it's just Hamilton is a beast, or either that or something happening. But
it's Hamilton for sure.
It's Hamilton.
What are your thoughts, Julian?
For so long he's been dominating the sport, and everyone's just I hate Lewis Hamilton. He's always winning, and I'm like, I mean, if we go back 15 years, everyone thought the same thing of Michael Schumacher when he was absolutely dominating F1, and now we look in hindsight and we're like, damn, this guy he was cut from a different cloth. He was insane. And this drive itself, especially for me, who's someone, I don't affiliate myself with any teams or anything of the sort. I'm like, damn. At this point, you really can't hate Lewis Hamilton, as we said, Bottas, same machinery, same car, struggled to get out of 9th place, was getting overtaken by a Williams, was maybe even going to drop out of the points depending on the pace of the cars behind them. And then there's Lewis Hamilton, who on the red flag restart, on the rolling start, started 9th and on a mission, cut through the field like it was absolutely nothing. He was a man on a mission, and some of the overtakes you saw when they get on onboard, I told my mom when we were watching the race, I'm like, look, you can say anything you want about Lewis Hamilton that is just a car or anything. If you see the way he drives this car, he's a robot. He's precise in everything he does, and it's absolutely impressive because at this point, Lewis Hamilton doesn't need to get tested on if he's on performance enhancing drugs or anything. He needs to be tested to make sure he wasn't cloned and perfected in a lab. Because apart from that one mistake, which was more because of the track rather than because of him as a driver, like you see how he cuts through some corners, like it looks robotic. It's precise. The way that he just drives is impressive. Lewis Hamilton is one of the best drivers ever. If someone says otherwise, then they're either I'm not going to get into it. They're horrible people, honestly.
No,
Lewis Hamilton's really talented, and we can't knock him for that. This performance was absolutely amazing. Yes, he started in first and didn't win the race. So for some people who just look at the end of the race like, oh, he didn't win, you started in first, oh, he had a bad race or something of the sort, you couldn't be farther from the truth considering the situation of the race, what happened, the chaos, the mistake, the one mistake that Hamilton rarely has. Like, to put that into context, before we even saw him returning on the track and he was parked there was a graphic that came up straight up, and the graphic just said, last time Hamilton DNF'd a Grand Prix, 2018 Australian Grand Prix, which is the first race of the 2018 season. Okay, that was 3 years ago.
He's also only had, I believe, 24 career DNFs.
He's robotic. He's amazing at what he does. And if you've seen some of his earlier DNFs, especially when he was at McLaren, most of those weren't because of car failures. Those were accidents that he got thrown into, and most of the other times that he's retired, they have ended up being because of car failures. I think the only time I've ever seen Lewis Hamilton on entirely his own mistake end up retiring, whether it was because he wrecked himself, was the heartbreaking 2007 Chinese Grand Prix.
Oh,
when
that was yeah.
That's I think it's the only time I've ever seen him make a mistake on his own that cost him a race.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. All right, now we welcome in Alex Baumgarter, our F1 Florida man representative. He's joining us there he is, to talk about the Miami Grand Prix that has been announced. So starting in 2022, Formula One has signed a 10-year contract to race at a circuit around Miami's iconic Hard Rock Stadium. Let's start with you, Alex. What are your thoughts on this move by Formula One? How do you like this?
Well, as a Floridian, obviously Julian's from Florida too. I've lived 20-something minutes away from the Hard Rock my whole life, and they've completely revitalized it. They've made it look absolutely stunning. Now they have the Miami Open there. They've hosted Super Bowls in the new stadium. It's the same stadium, but they completely renovated it. They've hosted national championships, boxing fights. The Hard Rock Stadium is basically one of the biggest venues in the United States now, in North America, for events. So to see that the Grand Prix is there, it's going to be really fun. There's a lot of race fans in Miami. And the thing with Miami is if there's an event, people will go. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's in Miami Gardens. So it's a little bit closer to suburban life rather than being on the beach. I'm excited to see it. I mean, the venue looks amazing. Let's look at the proposed track. It's going to go around Hard Rock Stadium. So this is what it looks like. As you can see, it's going to go around the premises of the parking lot, around the stadium, and that's basically what it is. So obviously, I'm excited for it. I haven't been to an F1 race before. I wanted to go to Montreal, but it looks like they're not going to let fans in this year. It's not going to happen. So maybe next year is the first time I'll get to experience an F1 race. What about you guys?
It's interesting. I mean, based off of your point on Montreal, I'm pretty sure the Canadian GP this year got canceled. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's officially been canceled. That's sad because the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve is one of the most beautiful tracks on the calendar, and it always provides really good racing. So it's really sad to not see it 2 years in a row on the calendar. But if we look at the Miami layout, I'm looking forward to it. Miami have not hosted, or not even Miami, just the state of Florida has not hosted a Formula One race since 1959. So F1's making its big return. Honestly, at first when they were talking about a return of F1 to the state of Florida, maybe on a street circus in Miami, in my head I was just like, it would make more sense now that NASCAR's racing on the road course in Daytona. Like, could we maybe see Daytona make an appearance on the F1 calendar? Like, that's what was going through my head, but it didn't happen. And now we're headed to Miami, and I'm looking forward to see it. I've been to Hard Rock several times in my life. It's an absolutely beautiful stadium, and the renovations just made it even nicer. The area is very nice. obviously we see just the track layout. We haven't seen any actual photos of what it would look like going through certain corners, how it's going to look, how wide is it going to be. Those are all questions we're going to see, but this track's coming into new regulations where cars should be able to follow a lot better. And with how the track is, if the proposal comes in true, if the regulations do what they promised, which is having cars follow better, I really feel like this is going to be an absolute banging track to see racing on. Now, I still want to see photos of it because, as you said, it is through more of a suburban area. So my question is just like, how are they going to set up the walls? How is the safety going to be set up?
That's the biggest concern. There's already been complaints, according to sources in Florida. There's been complaints already from the neighboring communities.
Yeah.
Also, Miami Gardens is not a rich area. If we're looking at Miami, people like the F1 trailer barely showed Miami Gardens. It showed the beach. It showed South Beach. It showed downtown Miami. This is 40 minutes away from downtown Miami. This is Miramar for my Florida friends. This is on the border of Miramar and Miami. If you know, you know. It's going to be interesting to see how they'll be able to do it. They made the Miami Open there. They put seats and they put a bunch of tennis courts there. They'll figure it out. I don't know exactly like where the seats are going to go looking at this 19 corner track, but should be interesting. Is it all? I heard it's a night race. Is it a night race?
It's looking like it's going to end up being a night race, but I mean, obviously nothing's been confirmed, but I really feel like, can you imagine a night race around a circuit in Miami and they have like the neon lights, the stereotypical
and the Hard Rock lights up, and then you got all the buildings in the back. It's going to be nice. It's going to be nice. A good weekend. That's for sure.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, no, I'm super excited as well to see what happens. I think we haven't seen photos. There's been pros renders, I guess, like mocks, like people have made into like mocks, and there's been renders. I've seen a few renders of like just like a 1 or 2 corners and stuff. But again, that's just people like making it through. Like nothing's confirmed until we see an official, like track layout from F1. Then we'll believe it and stuff. But if it's a night race, that's going to be super nice. Miami, like again, like you said as well, Hard Rock Stadium, really nice area around there. So yeah, I'm super excited to see what happens. And again, safety is one thing where I'm like, obviously they're going to make sure it's safe as possible. If it's going to be like I don't know if they're going to put up a bunch of walls where it's going to be like a street circuit sort of thing, where if it's going to be like that or if it's going to be more open, but it's going to be definitely.
Have to. It's a pretty solid residential area.
Yeah.
It looks like it looks very Tilka inspired in some part of the tracks, not too Tilka inspired. So I assume that if it's Tilka, He'll make it look really nice infrastructure wise. Not talking about the track, but
like one thing that I saw on Twitter just made me laugh. If you want to compare this track to Interlagos, it just looks like you squished Interlagos a little bit. Like that's what people have been saying. It's like if you take the layout of the Brazilian GP and you just squish it a little bit, you could almost see the resemblance of Miami. Granted, one of them is a counterclockwise track and the other one is a clockwise track, I believe.
Yeah.
So they're entirely different in that aspect, but it's going to be a fun weekend, as you mentioned.
Yeah. Something I would want to know is how at the area, Hard Rock Stadium and Miami Garden, how is the elevation there? Is it like completely flat, or it's just going to be like
flat?
Oh, that might.
I'll show you right now. This is the aerial of what Miami Gardens is. So as you can see, it's flat.
Nice. Okay.
It's very flat. The grass flat. The parking lot's flat. If they put something over the road, it's flat. There's no highway near it. The highways are off to the side over here. Mm-hmm. So basically, it's flat.
Okay, that would be interesting to take a look at. I mean, even something as like the Circus Juvenile is on an island. It's also had a bit of elevation up and down. Really, really small hill, but it's not like too crazy of a hill. Something like that, because I'm not sure if they're still gonna have the American GP for Circus of the Americas, which while it is a very complicated track, it has really fun up and downhill, especially in the like race start finish line. So something that people kind of make fun of for a lot of Tilka track, it's just completely flat. But I think that sometimes we can make some really good racing as well. So we'll see. In the next few days, probably a Assetto Corsa. We have like some mods for it, so we can actually try to race on it. So
I want to know what's your favorite F1 track? Like all of you, if you could pick one F1 track, which one would be your favorite and why? If someone else picked it, you can say that's your favorite, but then try and pick a different one. So let's go with Sam first.
Okay. I would say my favorite track would probably be actually Monaco. Monaco, just because of the history and also I know some people say it doesn't always provide the best racing, but still, there's not a lot of overtaking, but it still provides some of the best strategic racing there out there. And the importance of strategy, how important qualifying it is, and plus it's a super nice street circuit. That would say be my favorite F1 track. What about you, Julian?
Probably the widest venue too. Like you go there, you're like, yeah, this is a real party weekend. You go to Monaco.
I want to hear Ming first.
I had like run-ups, but I think my favorite one, just personally, because I race on it a lot and I'm still bad at it, is Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium, because it's classic. It's been there, and then Orange Radion is also just as classic as ever, and it's provide a lot of good racing too. Well, okay, except for the last year was very disappointing. The runner-up I'll say is Suzuka. I hate it so much. I hate the snake so much. The S so much. But it's a very technical. It's really really fun to race at, and it's provide a lot of like high speed corner for you, and a lot of high speed corner like the 130R. It's extremely awesome to go flat out with an F1 car. Those are the two that I like. My favorite one, very classic, very like really classic tracks. I don't have any like new particularly favorite for like a new modern track. Maybe like Baku, because it just looked funky, and I really like the I am stupid corner. But yeah, Suzuka and Spa would be like the top tier one.
If we're talking, there's two tracks that I want to mention. One that is a track that's no longer on the calendar, but I just absolutely loved it. And another one's a track that's currently on the calendar. On the calendar, I love Montreal. I love the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. My dream is to go watch it one day there. It's always a party in that part of Canada. It's always a party in that weekend in Montreal. And I really want to go live that atmosphere. But at the same time, it's just an absolutely interesting track all around. It has not a lot of elevation, but the way the corners are set up, cars can still go side by side. There's hairpins. There's hard braking. It's really just a very fun track all around. But if I have to say my favorite track of all time ever in F1 in this sense, Malaysia. Malaysia is an absolutely beautiful track. It's a shame that they had to remove it. I know why they removed it. It comes down to financial aspects, and they weren't getting the viewership because it is really far from the nearest residential areas and whatnot in Malaysia. But if someone wants to say what is Herman Tilke's best track, it's Malaysia. Malaysia is an absolute masterpiece of a race circuit, and I really cannot say otherwise.
Is it also his like F1 track debut as well? Or is that?
I think so. That's why Tilke gets so many tracks now, because Malaysia was that good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Malaysia was an absolute beauty of a track.
You should watch. If you want to relive that love for Malaysia, watch the Asian Le Mans series. They still race there. Yeah. And it's really winding me up with like all the Asia tracks are also like really solid too. But yeah,
MotoGP is also going to Malaysia, I believe, this season or next season. I'm not 100% certain, but I'm pretty sure MotoGP is going to be making a run there.
Oh yeah, it's true.
Alrighty, that wraps up the Outside the Cockpit post-race show of the Emilia Romagna Imola Grand Prix, the super long Grand Prix name. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out theintermissionsports.com for more content.